Hi, part ones. I want to continue to unpack the church's teachings in terms of sexuality and morality and ethics in light of sexuality. I use that as sort of a platform to help you understand the importance of church's teachings and something that we can all relate to. And something that we all have to deal with as teachers, well, for our own lives, first of all, and then also with our students. That's a huge topic and not well understood. A lot of teachers feel very uncomfortable dealing with this, the topic of sex with our students, and just are totally unsure of what the church teaches. Likewise, with homosexuality too, there's a lot of misconceptions and lack of knowledge, again, ignorance in terms of what does the church really teach about homosexuality. Okay, so first of all, when I talked about the Bible being a love story or a weapon, this is where the Bible has been used as a weapon by fundamentals in our Christian church, in our Catholic church too. And, a lot of, it's unfortunate, there was a time where people thought that people could be converted. And a lot of young people suffered under this misconception, where they were sent to summer camps or whatever, try to reverse this. And I remember showing a video to my grade 12s when I taught this in grade 12 religion about a mother who tried to get her son to change, try to beat faith into him, and he killed himself. And it was only after he killed himself that the mother realized that what she did was wrong. And then she started to speak out so that other parents wouldn't do the same thing. I'd like to say it's all changed, but it still hasn't. There's such a fear about our sexuality, especially when it looks different than ours. Anything that looks different than ours, we start to fear. Whether it's a culture or, ideology or something, and we react adversely based on our fear, and we can't do that, right? So let's start first of all with what the Catechism actually has to say about homosexuality. So in the Catholic Catechism, because unfortunately there will be priests in our church that won't teach according to this, because of their own fears or their own experiences, and might be giving off the wrong message, right? So first of all, in the Catechism, this goes under there's a section here called the Ten Commandments, and the Sixth Commandment, and this is what it's filed under here. So it's starting with number 2357, chastity and homosexuality. Okay, so when the church addresses this in the Catechism, this is the language that makes it difficult. Okay, so there's two things that make it difficult, that people might take it the wrong way or not, kind of get their backs up in terms of what the church teaches, and almost rightly so when you listen to this language. But there's a reason for it, and the reason is it stems back to when the church developed its teachings on marriage. And marriage, two things I mentioned in the other video, is to be procreative and unitive. So when two people can't fulfill the idea of marriage that the church has created, then these words are used. So in the Catechism, it says its psychological genesis remains largely unexplained, basing itself on sacred scripture, which presents homosexual acts as acts of grave depravity. Tradition has always declared that homosexual acts are intrinsically disordered. That's a tough statement. And when we go back into the history of the church, you'll find issues of homosexuality in two books predominantly: Leviticus, which is in the Old Testament, and the writings of St. Paul in the New Testament, right? But when you really read what Leviticus was about, there was so many laws and things going on in the Old Testament, written in the first 5 books of scripture of our Bible. And they were looking at the way people were misusing their sexuality. So there were issues of people who were not homosexual engaging in homosexual activity. And that was a lot of the issues that when you read it, that's what they're kind of referring to. I'm trying to do this in a nutshell because, again, I don't want to make this video too long. And the same with St. Paul. St. Paul, when he speaks out against it, there was this it was sort of the norm. The soldiers used, young boys as boy toys. That was wrong, So the misuse of our sexuality in the context of homosexuality is what, the message you're going to be hearing in Scripture, but it's not so direct, okay? But this language is hard to read because, again, we're all created in the image and likeness of God. But because, again, they don't fit into the ideal of procreative and unitive when it comes to marriage, the church is not allowing our homosexual brothers and sisters to be married. So that's an issue. And then they don't fit into that model of procreating. So where are we going to go with that? I don't know. I don't know how this is going to unfold into the future. The secular society, too, is moving along, but not completely on board with people that are in the LGBTQ plus community. So the church is working through this, too. But it also reads here, the number of men and women who have deep-seated homosexual tendencies is not negligible. They do not choose their homosexual condition. For most of them, it is a trial. So it's not easy, right? This is what they're saying. They must be accepted with respect, compassion, and sensitivity. This is the catechism. This is what the church teaches. Every sign of unjust discrimination in their regard should be avoided. These persons are called to fulfill God's will in their lives, and if they are Christians, to unite to the sacrifice of the Lord's cross the difficulties they may encounter from their condition. Homosexual persons are called to chastity by the virtues of self-mastery that teach them inner freedom, at times by the support of disinterested friendship, by prayer and sacramental grace, they can and should gradually and resolutely approach Christian perfection, right? So we're all called to chastity, okay? Even people who are married, because chastity is the respect of the couple in the relationship. So it's not just referred to single people. And if you want to know more about chastity, it's also in the Catechism, just a few pages ahead of this. And, and basically chastity is for, sexual self-control and not to use it for power, which could happen in a married relationship if there isn't dignity and respect between the couple and how they engage in their sexual encounters, right? For those of us who are single, it's chastity and abstinence are two different things, but they go together as well, right? So when people are not married, we're asked to abstain from sexual activity. And that's what we're asking our students to do, right? So a single person in the church and say a homosexual person in the church are called to the same thing, except the single person can eventually, the single heterosexual person can eventually be called to the vocation of marriage, whereas the church is not calling our LGBTQ community to marriage at this point in church history. Okay, so that's important to distinguish those two, and to also look and see, how things have progressed in secular society too. And I'm taking the time to talk about this as well because just before I retired as a chaplain, we did have our LGBTQ support group in our school. And my school was a very young school. It was only 7 years old. But in the last 2 years, I really noticed a shift, and I noticed more and more kids were coming out and transitioning and being more open about their sexuality, even coming in as grade 9 students. So I suspect it's happening a lot in elementary too, and it's happening in younger and younger students because it's becoming more and more acceptable. When students sense that there's something different about them, there's more freedom for them to explore that instead of stifling that as we've had to do in the past, right? So these issues are going to be coming to us sooner in the younger grades, but also we have to understand in what context do we, minister to our young students in regards to our church, right? I love when Pope Francis was asked the question. He said, "Who am I to judge?" I just love that. Who am I to judge? Who are you to judge? We are all created in the image and likeness of God. We can never forget that. Looking into the eyes of another human being, we are looking into the eyes of God who created us and loves us. And some of the things in this world, in God's creation, is beyond our comprehension. We don't understand completely why things unfold as they do, or, we don't know. But we are to accept with compassion and love, because that's the church that we are, because that's the God that we represent in our own faith, in our communities. Extremely important for us to embrace this and to know this and to allow our communities to know this if they don't know that we should be that prophetic voice, or to teach people. Because again, we as Catholics don't know a lot about our own teachings, particularly when it comes to this, because again, there's so much fear-based. And there's just been too many priests in pulpits telling us it's wrong. It's not about it being wrong, right? That's not the issue. It's wrong in our estimation, maybe, like for someone looking that's not, but that's not it. It's allowing us to accept the image and likeness of God in every part of created humanity. Okay, so keep that in mind when you are exploring again issues of morality and ethics, the issues you're dealing with in your own school. Read up more about this, and anytime you're unsure of something, just tell your students, "I'm not sure. Let me find out." And do the research. It's part of your formation of conscience, that process of search. Talk to someone who knows. If there's a chaplain in your school, if there's a priest in your neighborhood, read some theological books, like make sure you're doing the research based on Catholic thinking, right? But don't react to information you got somewhere else, you're not sure where and why it came from that direction. That's some of the dangers that we have in our church, okay? And, at any point, if you have any questions or concerns, please reach out to me. This is what I'm here for, to help you with your ministry. That's my ministry. That's what I'm here to do, okay? So enjoy the challenge of this this module, and I hope you grow from this. I hope you learn a lot, and I hope you continue to ask more questions and move towards, a culture of life. A culture of life that puts the dignity of the human person first, because that's where the church begins with its moral teachings. Takes into consideration the dignity of human life. God bless. Peace.